Hey, folks. Y'all hear me?
Yep.
Howdy, howdy.
Cool.
Hi, everybody.
Just wait till 2 past. Give folks a chance to file in here. Everyone having a good week so far?
Hectic.
Hectic. Yeah. That's a good sign, though.
I hope so.
Well, if we weren't trying to take over the world, life would not be hectic. A necessary but not sufficient condition for succeeding. So Igor, how did you get that avatar again? Which AI did you use to do that?
Oh, I used Midjourney. Joey, you invite a bot to your Discord, and the bot responds with images to text. So you just give it. I just give it a normal picture of me, and I added Star Trek Borg because I'm a fan of Star Trek. I like that's my spirit animal. Because you can leverage the collective of the Borg while at the same time retaining your individuality.
I mean, if you're the Borg, if you're like, Jean-Luc Picard or the Borg Queen, you get your individuality. Everyone else is kind of a drone though, right?
Well, that's not ideal. I guess everyone would be like Jean-Luc Picard. Unlike the other drones, they're too robotic, right? So yeah, but you're right, exactly right. I would want everyone to be an individual drone.
So what's your Borg name? Lucius is already taken. So what's your Borg name?
I need to be baptized. I'll take a poll. I'll run a Twitter poll.
That's going to be a fun Friday conversation. All right, looks like we're at 2 past, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Alrighty. All right, this is the March. Let me just go ahead and make sure we're recording here. Yes, we are recording. Got a few more folks filing in here. All right, this is the March 7th, 2023 blockchain meeting. As requested, previous meeting link and password are right here. Let's go ahead and proceed with the mainnet check-in. We got lots of miners. And yes, to Walker, most of them have not upgraded. I think we have one that's running 2.1 right now, and there's like 10 or 11. We have like one that's running 2.05, 6.0. The rest are running some older version. Well, I mean, they're in for a big surprise come end of March, so can't say we didn't warn them. I want to confirm, is the Explorer telling people to upgrade yet?
Yeah, we've had the notice up on Explorer since last week.
Great. Excellent.
But I don't think it has made a difference, at least not to my knowledge. I don't see Jay Valley on the call, but I think it'll be good to just make sure that at least all like integration partners and exchanges have upgraded. Otherwise, I think we might be in for some surprises ourselves.
No kidding. He should be on this. He should be on this call sooner or later. We can circle back to him because that's actually a really good status update we should get here.
Yeah,
I just pinged him.
Awesome, thanks. For folks who are listening, come the start of reward cycle 55, which is this next reward cycle. If you are not running 2.1, any blocks you mine are going to mine stacks that are worth nothing because they won't even be on the same fork, and they will never be on the same fork. So if you haven't upgraded yet, please do so. It takes a few days because you have to sync from Genesis. So just make sure to budget that in when you're preparing the migration over.
We do have 2.1 chain states.
What's up?
Yeah, on that, we do have 2.1 chain states available now on our archiver.
Oh, fantastic! Can you post links then here?
Yeah, yeah, I can do
Yeah,
that.
I got it.
Thanks, Charlie. And Igor, you had your hand raised, so go for it.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just typed in the chat. That banner disappears when you scroll down, so you might want to fix it. If you want to go back to the website, you'll see it.
I love the team now.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt that that's really going to make the big difference here, but we can look into it.
Well, yeah, I also had a more hard proposal to provide incentives, but that can be gamified as well for upgrading.
Yeah, you get it. You get the behavior
Yeah.
you incentivize. Whether that's the behavior
Exactly.
you wanted or not, that was a
Mhm.
different question. So yeah, I think there's certainly adequate incentive here. Like if you're not on 2.1, by the time this reward cycle comes around, you're getting left behind. You'll figure out sooner or later. Here's Jay Wiley. Let's go ahead and ask him about the exchange integration. Jay Wiley, can you hear us? Hey, Jay Wiley, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were talking to me. What's the question?
I was just wondering if you could give us a status update on exchange partner integration.
Yeah, several of them have upgraded to 2.1 using an archive chain state that I provided to them. There are some questions coming in about the API though, that I'm gonna have to try to figure out. Specifically, I don't know if it's really related here, but just fungible token data.
Are you able to are you able to reach out or at least pair up with the right folks on this call to get those questions resolved?
Yep, already on it.
Excellent. All right. Everything else seems to be fine on mainnet. Like we have like 10 miners or something like that, and the sortition miss rate has gone down. It's like low 20% or something like that. It's not great, but it wasn't like low 30s like it was last week. So at least there's that. Anything else for mainnet before we talk about testnet? All right, how's testnet doing? We did the handoff to 2.1, right? And everything seems to have gone fine besides the minor hiccup with the API update.
Yeah, everything looks fine. The only thing we had to update was the Satoshi per byte parameter. We had to set it to 20. I think it was not winning or not mining if we set it to anything lower.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
We had to set the Satoshi per byte parameter under the burn chain to 20. I think we played around with like 15 or 18, and then it would go through long periods of no blocks mined.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, especially now that we have ordinals on testnet too. So block space is getting expensive.
Mm-hmm. So is that something we should just use going forward?
If
I
it works.
think that this may have surfaced a separate issue because it wasn't even submitting transactions. So like part of what was going on while we were trying to choose a proper Satoshi per byte rate was at a certain point, the miner got into a state where it was just never submitting transactions. So like I opened an issue about this where I was like trying to figure out what was going on. It seems like the miner believed that it had a pending key registration, but there was like no key registration transaction.
Is it possible that transaction found its way into an orphan block?
I don't think so, because there was also no log entry for the register key transaction being produced.
Oh, you're saying it got into the pending state without actually sending anything?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of hard to tell because it's like negative log analysis, because like the pending state is like the only state you're in where you don't emit a log event. So
did you see an attempt to submit the transaction and it just failed for some reason?
no.
Or never got picked up, or?
Yeah, I didn't see any log entries for the register key submission, so.
The trust machines miner exhibited similar behavior where there was just no blocks submitted, just from watching the mempool.space address for trust machines. And that went on for a couple of weeks, and I saw your ticket, Aaron. We're not keeping as many logs as I would like for our server, so I don't know if I can go back to the point where it started, but a couple of days ago, it just started producing blocks again. So I just want to offer that up.
Don,
as a
we
data
keep our
point.
full logs, so I'll show you how to retrieve them
Okay.
if you want to show them.
Yeah, this it resolved itself when we rebooted the node. When we rebooted the node, it immediately decided to submit a register key transaction. The register key got picked up, and then it started mining. But yeah, I do think that there's something here. It's just it's kind of hard to diagnose because it's multi-threaded. There's a lot of views and locks. So yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of like how we can even begin to reproduce this in a way that would be actionable. Maybe we can just
Yeah.
talk about that async perhaps.
Yeah, I kind of suspect that we should just keep kind of aware of this. Like if somebody reports something that sounds kind of similar to this, I think that we should just try to dial in on that. Because this does resolve on reboots, so I don't know if it's like a crisis situation, but
It's true.
I didn't happen to see this resolve on reboot when we were set to 5 or 10
okay.
Satoshis. It seemed like it might progress one block inconsistently, but then it would fall back into the same behavior.
So
Yeah,
can you say that one more time? It happens when you set a transaction fee that's too low.
Yeah. If you set the Satoshis to 10 or 5, for example, something below 15 or below 20, we would see this behavior happen quite frequently. When restarting, it might be able to mine 1 or 2 blocks, but then it would quickly fall back into this pattern.
Okay. I could see block commits just not ever getting picked up if the fee is too low, but Matt was saying on chat that 1 Satoshi per VByte is sufficient.
I think it's supposed to be. It's just not working out to running like that for some reason.
Okay. We'll keep our eye open. If there's a way to increase the fee rate in reg test, maybe that's a possible avenue for exploring this. But yeah, I don't want to spend the whole meeting talking about this issue because there's a bunch of things that could have gone wrong here. Very least we can probably increase logging just so we get some more insights if it happens again. So that's something we'll keep in mind. I will keep our eye open, like Aaron suggests. Potentially other people will have this. For issues, I'll go ahead and look at unassigned issues. I went ahead and assigned all the issues. I looked at all the issues that are assigned to me and that I'm not working on right this moment and just tagged them with Icebox. Just a friendly reminder to please do that for your issues as well. Because when we do this part of the meeting, I'm just going to look at non-Icebox issues. So let's go, and also issues that are not assigned. So to proceed with that, Frieger had this problem last week where he was booting a node. And if you look at the affirmation map here, it looks like his node proceeded to process POX blocks while missing an anchor block. I've been trying to reproduce this by running a 2.1 node from Genesis on a very heavily loaded node in the hopes of triggering some sort of timeout. I have not succeeded in doing so yet. Advice for anyone listening to this is that if this does happen, I would just consider rebooting your node and seeing if that makes it go away. I don't believe Frieger has tried this yet, or if he has not indicated as such.
Dude, when you say reboot, do you mean just restart the process or
Yeah, I just stop it and start it.
Okay.
Is there any chance these two problems could be related with miner and anchor blocks? Maybe due to
No,
locking
this is
issue?
just a
Okay.
follower booting up. Oh, we just talked about this one here. Might as well just assign this to myself here, so I can see it, because I'm the one who is currently taking a look at this. Who wants to own this? Aaron, do you want to own this for the time being, and then you can reassign later?
Yep, sure.
Thanks.
We should probably post that in the mining channel.
Yep, we'll do. This is a bug that Charlie reported. Do you just want to give a bit more background here, Charlie?
Sorry, what was the bug? Can you scroll up?
Oh yeah, this is the item. It's present in the bloom counter, but has 0 count. Panic.
Oh yeah, this was a really weird one because I pinged Jay Wiley to see if he saw this error, but he didn't. So almost all of our mainnet stacks nodes crashed repetitively throughout all of our infrastructure at the same time, showing like the same error. They went through like 5 to 7 crashes before they were able to just start, getting back to a healthy state. They seem healthy today. I don't really have that much more context besides the logs. And it seemed to only affect our nodes. So maybe not ecosystem wide because Jay Wiley didn't report anything. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I will try and take a look at this. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't have panicking failures in the networking code when you're dealing with untrusted input. We should just reject the message as invalid. So that's unfortunate. I'm glad that it seems to have been contained to just your nodes, and this wasn't like a network-wide thing, but that does give me pause. Like if it can cause multiple nodes to crash, it can probably cause others to crash too.
Yeah.
So I will take a look at this. I've already assigned it to myself. This is another issue that I've been working back and forth on. He's not here. It's been reported by Maximalist, who's reported several mining issues with us before. This is just a request to make it so that Bitcoin can, when you connect the Stacks node to a Bitcoin node, you can use a custom Bitcoin wallet. Bitcoin supports multiple wallets. Our Rigcoin burn chain controller code also supports multiple wallets. I have a PR for this that adds test coverage for this. We're still having some difficulty though. I'm trying to figure out exactly why. My next guess is it just might be incompatible or a different version of Bitcoin that we're testing with versus what he's using. Anyway, this is something to take seriously if you're mining, because it's often it's possibly the case that you have like a dedicated mining wallet you want to use separate from like other wallets for other services. This was an issue that I asked Aaron to open. Aaron, do you want to speak to it a bit more?
Yeah, sure. So the current way that the node handles Atlas events is basically the chains coordinator. When it sees print events from an Atlas configured contract in the result set of a block, it forwards those events to the Atlas DB. The Atlas DB queues those events to be like checked later on. This checking occurs in the peer-to-peer thread. And what this checking does is it looks at the hashes attached or associated with those events. It sees whether or not it already has the content associated with that hash. This is possible in a bunch of different cases, like Genesis Atlas attachments. If the hash is like a well-known hash, like all zeros, or sorry, corresponding to the zero data. And also, I think that like if it's the node that originally broadcasted the transaction, people would supply the zone file with the transaction. But anyways, so that's what happens during the checking phase. And then once this Atlas event has been checked, it's added to the Atlas like content batch. And so then the Atlas downloader, which also runs in the P2P thread, is interacting with other nodes trying to figure out where this content is stored on the network and then downloaded. All this currently occurs in the P2P thread, which is responsible for a ton of other stuff. And so any of this like heavyweight IO, which includes things like downloading content associated with Atlas hashes, could stall the rest of the P2P processing.
Well,
Which is
to be clear,
potentially
the
an issue.
downloads don't stall
Yeah.
because they use a non-blocking socket, but storing them could potentially stall for a while.
Yeah. Storing them can stall. So, yeah.
And this would just be a request to move the storage code into the relayer thread, which already handles like bulk data storage.
Right. So the way that we would do that is like when a download occurs, we would add it to the network result. And then the network result would get passed to the relayer thread.
Yep, that's my understanding too.
Yeah.
I'm the one who requested this, so I can just assign to myself for the time being, but I'm probably not going to be able to work on it for a while. It's not like a killer that we don't do this yet, but it is something that overall we try to be mindful of, to just not do unnecessary IO in the P2P thread, like disk IO.
Yeah, I would say this is kind of like a nice to have. We've been surviving without this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could pop up and shoot us in the foot eventually, but so far it hasn't. So
Yeah, we're already so attachments are already limited in size and you can only have so many per block. So it's not the end of the world if we have a block that's full of attachments, but it would cause a P2P stall while the IO had to complete to store all of them. So performance optimization hasn't killed us, hasn't really hurt us. We can always address it later, I think.
yeah, I think that it can do much more than one block worth of IO, but it is limited. But there's another limiter in place. There's like Atlas download limit per loop.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that in the PR. That's actually something in the PR checklist, for the folks who haven't read that yet. If you're dealing with inbound data for processing and storage, you have to make sure you bound the amount of work you do per instance of data reception, lest you end up stalling other parts of the node.
Regarding that, could an alternative way would be just to use the incoming thread to queue things, and so that we can release the IO thread as quickly as possible.
Right. That's literally what we just talked about.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant, okay. Yeah.
Alrighty. So this, we think we talked about last week. JY, I've seen some action on the associated PR for this. I'm sorry, I was thinking of a different one. Is there anything else on issues we want to talk about? I'm pretty sure the rest of them have assignees. I can't tell which ones are not iceboxes. I've only iceboxed my own.
So I'm still working on iceboxing mine, but just wanted to add one thing here. So a bunch of the Clarity like proposals that would need to go into a next version of Clarity, I'm organizing those into a discussion on the SIPs repo. I felt like that was a good place for those to live initially. And then I guess I think it still makes sense to leave the issues in the blockchain repo just iceboxed for the time being while they get discussed in the SIPs repo. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
I would just make sure that if there's any requests for Clarity functions, both here and in the Clarity Lang repository, which doesn't see as much traction, we just redirect users to that discussion.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I think that's it for new issues. Pull requests, really quick. Can we go over the ones that are not part of the SPTC stuff here? This is really great. Okay, I can just go ahead and merge this. This is done. This fixes a bug we were seeing earlier, where we would have nodes on testnet that wouldn't reach the chain tip without this setting set to false explicitly in the config file. It defaults to true. It should not default to true. It should default to false. This is like a 4-line change that fixes this. Bryce, do you want to talk about this here? Expert comments?
Yeah, so this came out of a discussion with the Clarinet team about building a Clarity formatter. And essentially what we had in the Clarity VM, at the pre-expression level, we had a comment node, but then that just gets dropped when we reach the expressions. And so what this does is when we're in developer mode only, it attaches a comment either to it attaches it to the expression that it's either on top of or below, depending on the scenario. So that then in the AST that you get when you're using the VM in developer mode, you can access this comment. So as discussed on this PR, it shouldn't affect anything with a Stacks node because this developer mode is not enabled in that scenario. So I have 2 approvals now, just waiting for the test to finish passing. It should be good to go.
And we're sure that this is not going to affect the parsing and the execution of the contract in any way. Like we're just adding extra nodes that are not on the execution path.
Right. Yeah. So the comment node was already there from the parser initially. It was just dropped when we convert from pre-expressions to expressions.
Yep.
So this has no real effect anywhere.
Excellent. Yeah, that's also a checklist item on the how to review PRs thing. Like if you touch the Clarity VM, we assume it's consensus breaking until you prove otherwise. And this is the
That's
kind
fair.
of thing that we would, need to
Sure.
see. Alrighty. This is, I believe we just talked about this. Yeah, this is the wallet. This is not part of any existing working group. Bryce, want to talk about this one as well?
Oh yeah, so this one, so with the PR that Aaron had last week, maybe the week before, basically adding, filling in this VM error field in the transaction receipt. And I noticed that there was another scenario that we could have filled something in there, but it was currently just blank. So it just provides more information to like the wallet or the Explorer.
Awesome. Cool. It's about 2 approvals. So as soon as we can get it CI to finish up, we'll go ahead and merge it.
Cool.
We don't yet have L1 working group stuff. All I ask is that we've gotten 1 approval on this so far. Sometime soon, could somebody please add a second review? It's a pretty small PR for this wallet PR. I'm still testing it with this guy. I'll only merge it once it's working on his end. Also, it looks like we have 1 approval so far for this StackerDB messages PR from Aaron. I just need a second approval on this so we can get unblock work on the remaining StackerDB PRs. Each one builds on top of the other, so I can't merge them without merging the one it was built upon. And all 3 of these were built upon each other consecutively. So we need to get this one in, then we can talk about reviewing these. Is there any further work on these 4 L1 working group items here? Or are these kind of just in a frozen state for now?
The fuzz testing is frozen currently. The compiling Clarity VM to WASM, that is, I think that should be close, but Ludo got he got pulled into other things, so he hasn't been able to give it any attention.
Okay.
I think so. For a while, it was frozen, just waiting for 2.1 to be done with. Is Ludo on the call right now? No, he's not. But so anyway, this one should be able to get wrapped up as soon as Ludo or I could take it if I have some time at some point.
All right, sounds good. Admits type, is Scott on the call?
Oh, this is also just related to the fuzzing. And it's not even, it's just
Yeah.
merging from one fuzzing branch to another. We should
Right.
go ahead and get that one, just close that one up, Scott. I think we can merge it, or,
I can't merge it. Things are broken.
well, it's just, like I said, it's just merging into a different fuzzing branch.
Right, I understand. Like this button's grayed out for me,
Oh, gotcha.
for better or for worse.
Yeah, I can close this and just push to the fuzzing branch now. I didn't have access back then. That's why I made a separate PR.
Okay, want to go ahead and close this then? You want me to close it or? All right,
Scott, you're on mute.
cargo dependencies. I see this is not a draft anymore. Cool. So this is something we can do. I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple other folks here. Feel free to take yourself off. If you don't want to be involved in it. I wish I could just say like, you know, everyone. Scott's already on it. Anyway, there's 4 people here. This is, if I understand it, it's just mainly changing the cargo.toml file, so it's not a huge thing. I'm guessing also that, yeah, the cargo.lock got changed, and that's the bulk of this PR. The rest of this is just bumping versions.
Correct.
Cool. Let's get this done this week. This looks like a pretty simple thing to do.
Yeah, the intention was to fast follow with things that require code changes, but just get the low-hanging fruit out of the way first. That way, if anything else broke, like there's some ed 25519 code that needs changing down the road, we can tackle that separately.
Yeah. And some of these things, for example, I think MIO, for example, we use 0.6, and that's actually like one of the supported branches to this day, I think. Like this particular project has multiple branches they support concurrently with just different APIs.
Mhm.
And other ones like SQLite, they break all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think the rest of these are pretty much frozen. We're just waiting for someone else to take on, unless anyone else has something they want to talk about for PR. Oh wait, this one's not frozen. Is the health check making progress, Pavithra?
I was gonna work on it after I finish tests for the microblock sync protocol.
Excellent. And Jay Wiley, I think I've seen some stuff being pushed here recently. Do you want to talk about this now that we're past, now that 2.1's out?
Yeah, I actually working on it this morning, in fact. Just finalizing some last minute things that I noticed changed in the base repo, because I changed a bunch of file names, so I had to pull them manually. Yeah, just one last task, I think, before I could re-enable this PR for review.
Awesome, glad to see it.
There is some other questions too. I don't know if it's in the scope of this meeting, but I'll talk to you on the side about it, actually.
All right.
It's all related to CI stuff, though.
Okay, sounds good. Discussion, if we're done with PRs. So we do have this graph here. Thank you to Walker for posting it. Some are taking 2+ days for a first review. Is this 2 business days or 2 calendar days? Because, weekends happen as well.
Good question. Let me double check how CodeClimate measures this. Let me follow up. I need to just read up their documentation to see how they're. My assumption is calendar days, but I may be wrong. I'll circle back. But yeah, I think the broader point is that just my goal is to just bring awareness to this so that people are kind of cognizant and try to prioritize. Make sure that PRs are not sitting around waiting for reviews for too long. That's all.
Yeah. Also, we'll repost this link here from last meeting about how to create and review PRs. I can go ahead and make this into a PR if that's what folks really want. Right now it's a wiki page. I don't know where to put the file though. It's going to be a pull request. I guess I'm gonna make a PR for a dev info or something like that.
I mean, unless I know Igor ran the poll, I don't think it's fair to create sort of extra work for you, Jude. If someone feels strongly that it should be a PR, like they can turn it into a PR. Otherwise, I think there are many ways, like we discussed. There's, I think, a Google Doc that Igor created, which is just copying the contents of that page. We can add comments at the bottom of the wiki. Whatever is least amount of extra work for you, I would optimize for that, unless someone has like a very strong preference here.
I volunteer to do all the administrative work to
There we go.
lift Jude from any admin work.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Igor.
I'll create up PRs because I think it's important that it gets kind of approval and it's in the code. Developers you kind of maybe you can live next to the contributing.md in the top level, but
Yeah,
I'll leave
yeah,
it up
sounds
to
good.
yeah.
It could be part of contributing as well, right? It seems like it's very much in scope of that.
something.
I'd recommend putting it into a separate dev info file. That's like the convention. It's my
Mhm.
understanding. Like, here's how you make a pull request. Here's code standards we expect, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Contributing is
that-
more about the administration of it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll review other projects if they have kind of PR guidelines and see what they do. But yeah, I'll do all the work.
Yep, and it's fine if the wiki just links to that file, if that's where we feel strongly it should live. All right, I got nothing else on the agenda. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? Well, we're all here. Stop sharing.
If we have a minute, I was trying to just find the article, but maybe somebody else saw it. So I noticed this as we were going through the PRs. We have this process where we have to like update the PR and then run the test again and then update the PR. I feel like I saw a blog post go by from GitHub like last week or the week before about stacking PRs so that you can avoid that kind of thing. Did anybody else read that? Or would that be something that we would be potentially able to use?
Can you find the blog post again?
I'll find it. I was hoping I could find it while we were talking. Oh, did Walker
there it
just
is.
post it?
I think
Yeah.
the Walker just posted it here. This one, right?
So that's from 2021. Maybe that just popped up again, but yeah, that could be.
I think I saw that article, Bryce. Was it about like automatic updates to PRs to rebase them?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so
I
like
didn't-
when
I
one
didn't,
PR
like,
gets
fully dig
merged,
into it.
other PRs would get would have their base automatically updated, I think.
Just wondering, it could save us some testing time.
I think GitHub currently introduce new beta features that actually you could queue your PRs. So for example, if they merge, they actually put into a queue.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
But it's actually recently introduced, like probably like this year or so.
Oh yeah, here's the link from Sorla.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Is this something we have to pay for? Oh, open source organizations. I guess that counts for us.
Yeah.
No, it's free, but you need to accept like kind of that beta testing or something like that.
Do we want to be guinea pigs?
Well, TM Core Eng team will be guinea pigs. Maybe we can report back on our experience if you like more data.
All right.
I'm testing it on my own small repos, but there is not enough queue.
You got to include the entire team so to put a little more load on it, see if we can break it.
Yeah, we have a pretty heavyweight CI, so.
Yeah.
All right. If that's it for everyone, we got 20 minutes left. We can go ahead and just give all that back. I see Muneeb's on the call. Is there anything that he wants to say before we close?
Actually, I have a question for the group that might be of benefit for the broader group as well. I know on the other sort of SBTC calls, there's been a lot of planning going on between Igor and Jude. Do you guys want to share sort of some more details on where that planning stands? Where can people get some more information? Because not everyone on this call might be attending those calls as well. So maybe just sharing some more information might be useful.
Sure. On my end, what I'm trying to do is flesh out more the mini SBTC document from being a design document to an implementation guide. So things like protocol diagrams, state transition diagrams, flow charts, more explicitly described algorithms so that it's less ambiguous how to translate the design into an implementation. That in turn facilitates doing better time estimation, as well as, better understanding the problem. And I know Igor's been doing a fantastic job of turning that into getting feedback from developers, making sure that we're all aggregating our estimates for how long things will take. Do you want to speak more to that, Igor?
Yes, of course, cannot do this at all without Jude. And so all those calls are recorded, of course, and there's transcripts available as well, if you want a summary as well. And there's the one document in the invite that has meeting notes with the links to the recorded call as well. And at this point, I think we are probably at the point where we can start forming issues, big issues for each project that we have. And I don't know, there's like 30 or plus or so of them. And because I think engineers are have pushed back, in terms of what's unambiguous. So expect the issue board to have a lot more issues, right? And then we'll kind of start assigning owners and then to those. But I think just I don't know, myself, I think the project is a lot more clear on engineers' mind than it was probably a week or two ago. I'd like to hear comments if that's the case for the CoreEng team. Sergey, Don, Joey.
We've been doing office hours, and that's been a great help last week. Got a lot done with that.
And then someone I think mentioned on Zoom chat yesterday that all of the office hours are being recorded too.
Yes, so all that is, I have a separate Zoom account, which is called Bitcoin Builder, which automatically records everything, and then the recordings get posted into a spreadsheet automatically. And this week, especially, we're hosting Jude University or Jude Academy. I invited Sarala so that she could add anyone else, so she can add other folks. And we'll record those and make sure that those files are also made available for onboarding, for even. And so, yeah, we have one later today, 1 hour, tomorrow 1 hour, and then Thursday another half an hour in the morning. So CoreEng team at Trust Machines, please add questions there, and so instructions are in the invite. That way Jude can be more structured, and we can make efficient use of this time. Just remind everyone, Jude will be temporarily leaving us, and so we need to upfront all of the questions or misunderstanding, probably in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So please add questions, things that, and also, yeah, I want to give thanks to Sarala for sharing the Blockchain Fridays meeting. I already received feedback from my team. People have watched the lectures. They found it very, very useful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
don't
on
be
a
shy,
similar
like-
line. Go ahead, Jude.
I was gonna say, don't be shy. Like, it's okay to have even a broad question. Like, I don't understand how like mining works. Can you walk me through end to end? That's totally fair game.
I'll start. I don't understand affirmation map, even though I accept it. I approved the PR. That was more like an unblocking approval because we later found that it had some problems that Jude had to wrestle with. So yeah, no. To me, affirmation maps. I've tried to watching slides, videos. Jude explained them many times to me. I still gotta hammer that thing into my head. But mining makes more sense because I dog food that product. I set up a miner, so I have a little bit more understanding. Stacking is still so. Again, I haven't dog food stacking. I think dog fooding will forces you to understand how things work. Yeah, in here probably I don't know, maybe for a lot of the new devs working on SBTC, I think now we're expecting to be doing more Clarity work than Rust work. So perhaps we can do a little bit of focus on that. But I know that material is also available elsewhere. But yeah, that's just trying to make good, efficient use of Jude's time.
I mean, we can go through Clarity examples on the call. That's totally fine. Like,
Yeah,
we can
how
have a-
about we go through the POX, like it's a complicated contract, the POX contract, That's a complicated one that I think we should just go through the contract and, give commentary as to why behind each line and kind of why is it not done different way, right? Or what was kind of the, the path of, of pain or tears that, led to what it is right now. Because, each file has a bunch of history that sometimes, you forget about it, right? Of how I arrived to that. And since we are going to be also revamping that contract, right? Like what are things that we may want to fix, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. Again, just get a priority list and we can start with the top of priority one.
Yeah, so on a
All
similar,
is fair
way, I
game.
shared the Notion space with the Blockchain Friday stuff. So this Friday is the POX, and then after that it's mining. And Aaron mentioned yesterday that he will be away this Friday, so we probably need Jude's help if you're available. Otherwise, I can reschedule that. And there's a whole list of topics that we'll be diving deep via code, and the format's been working for us really well. It also has videos, like Igor mentioned, from Marfan testing. And if you have suggestions for more topics, please add them to the list so we can prioritize.
If we don't have anything else, I'd like to, for Manip to share a few thoughts about Rollkit.
One small question, like who I could actually ask for and speak with about our Clarity engine in Stocks blockchain. I mean, for Rust code, especially, like, and serialization, for example, and so on. Who is the best person which will be to speak with?
I'm sorry, dude. Can you repeat the question, please?
In Stocks blockchain, we have a Clarity engine and Clarity types and so on. Who is the best person would be to speak with about, like, for example, serialization? Like, for example, I noticed that uint 128 serialized into number into JSON that actually could be lost when you deserialize it into JavaScript, for example.
That's right. So there's the serialization the blockchain uses. There's a trait in Clarity Source VM. I think it's type serialization is the full path. Anyway, there's a trait called Clarity Serializable that implements a canonical byte representation for every type.
Can we speak maybe like offline? But the question is, like, should I speak with you or with someone else? Like, so that's the question.
I could answer the question. Aaron could. Bryce could.
Ludo as well, right?
Ludo could as
You on the
well.
call. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's like an issue that I think that you own, Sergey. I replied to it with some pointers to like where serialization happens in the code.
Okay. We can speak.
Yeah, I would take a look there, and then if you have questions, feel free to ping me.
I can speak with on Discord probably. Or...
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I think people were asking about the Rollkit stuff. So at a high level, I think the way I think about the Stacks project is that, you know, we're trying to build the best possible solutions that you can today with Bitcoin L1, right? And you're sort of like assuming that Bitcoin L1 is not changing, not anytime soon, but it might change in the future, but it will take years. It will take like a very, very long time for it to happen. So if you look at the SBTC peg, it's basically as trust minimized as possible, right? So if there is other types of advancements that are happening, I think I've been at least sort of like from a distance watching the rollups world and the advancements happening there. My personal guess is that within the next year or so, we'll start seeing like more practical solutions coming up. Like, I think people have been now working on these things for 3-4 years, and it's about time that the technology is getting a little bit more mature. And the recent stuff around, you know, what are called quote unquote sovereign rollups, which is basically just putting the data in Bitcoin and using Bitcoin for data availability and reorg protection, much like, you know, how Stacks does this. Stacks, Nakamoto will do it in a slightly different way, but it's sort of similar, right? I think that's an interesting area, especially for scalability. I know subnets is kind of like one branch of thinking about scalability, but people like Aaron have already looked into, you know, Arbitrum style, like fraud proofs, just at a high level. And I do think that's an exciting area. I absolutely don't want to, you know, distract people, especially on this call, given like how valuable your time, bandwidth, and attention is. But I do think it's an area where we'll need to spend some more time and try to be at the top of it, because the timing might be right? Like these technologies are becoming more mature, and especially after SBTC launch, I think it could be a next major project to take on. That how do rollups play a role directly with the stacks layer for scalability, because there are two different types, right? You could have a roll up on stacks, which is easier, or you could have a roll up that has some direct part to play with Bitcoin, like a sovereign roll up, and then we can see where SBTC can help, because the biggest problem there still remains how to get BTC capital into the roll up. Very, very same problem that we're trying to work with SBTC. So with Rollkit, my understanding is the Celestia folks, I sort of like view them as like one of the more, technically sophisticated teams working in the industry. And I think they're working on a very modular sort of a design, which sort of in some ways fits well, right? Like for us, Bitcoin is a very separate layer from stacks. They're trying to build even a layer that is simpler than Bitcoin. It just does kind of like, ordering of transactions, and that's it, nothing else. And they're very closely in touch with a bunch of roll-up teams that will use Celestia. So they released this toolkit, and sort of like, I would say almost like part experiment, part joke on Bitcoin. Like, I don't think people know about the joke part, but there is some indication that part of it is a sort of like a joke, right? Like, hey, let's just see what happens with it. We are already in touch with them, on Telegram, but basically, I don't think they're putting any significant engineering resources behind it right now. That's my take. And I don't think the various entities in this ecosystem are putting any significant resources behind, but I think everyone wants to keep an eye open and sort of like dip their toes and be updated. There is some possibility that there might be some research universities working on this, or at least some dedicated hires in various entities. I've seen some interest. I'll update people as it actually materializes, but it's possible that there's a small like 2-3 person team even here that is more actively looking at these things. So I think that's sort of like how I think about it. One way to also think is that if Bitcoin ever does these changes, so I was seeing some timelines where people are talking about covenants at Bitcoin L1 in 2 years, and maybe a full, op, snark or stark verify in 6 years, right? Those are very long timelines. But I mean, they might become faster if there's enough interest, enough kind of like development and so on. But I do think it's a very, very fascinating area. Like in an ideal world, if Bitcoin L1 can just enforce the withdrawal of BTC out of a layer, that's where you want to be, right? So SBTC is the best thing you can do today. But if Bitcoin has native support, obviously you would want to jump on that, right? And I don't think it's coming anytime soon, but we should definitely keep an eye on it. I don't know if that's helpful or if people have questions. So right now, the practical thing is we're in touch with the team. We're sort of like evaluating how can some folks contribute to it, but it's more about staying on top of stuff really, and then trying to figure out who are the dedicated resources, either from certain research universities or independent entities in our ecosystem who might have some engineers who are basically like, okay, I work on kind of like rollups, and I'm interested in exploring that in the ecosystem. I think that'd be very helpful as a practical step.
Yeah, does Rollkit have something approaching like a white paper? Like I poked around in their docs a little bit to try to figure out what
we can ask them.
Yeah.
We are on Telegram group with them.
Cool. Yeah. Because I get the impression that they're essentially doing like optimistic rollups, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep, they have a separate node as well that runs in parallel to Bitcoin that does the execution and the aggregation, I guess, of all the transactions into a single roll-up transaction that happens on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's like a pretty I think like at this point almost standard element of optimistic rollups. You have like some people call it like the sequencer or whatever,
execution layer or whatever. Yeah,
right.
I'll be really interested in how are they thinking of moving BTC capital in, because I'm assuming it'll be a set of signers. What's the security guarantee? Because one interesting thing about I think the Stacks project is there's already like hundreds of millions of capital that's out there, which SBTC is utilizing, and I think it takes a while for some smaller project to get to that level. So if potentially like some parts of SBTC design can down the road. I don't think it's something to worry about in the next 6 months or more. But you could get that capital into a roll up. I think that could be very interesting if SBTC actually just can go into a roll up. I think that's interesting.
So the question would become like, how can we get Stacks blocks committed as rollups?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, you know, putting aside like the practical challenges and limitations that we're dealing with, even small things like inscribing the Stacks blocks as ordinals could be just pretty cool, because it's going to show up on ordinals explorers everywhere, like instead of the current way. Right. I'm not suggesting we change how Stacks blocks are announced, but just as a cool thing to do. And then same thing with rollups, right? Like if more data, I do think Stacks data might be bigger because we're not benefiting from any of the compression that happens for ZK style computations. But I think in the future there might be like some sort of a testnet that we run to try and play around with these things.
Yeah, I think if there's ever some sort of ZK proof verify opcode, that's potentially the game changer right there. Because
absolutely. That is, I think in my view, I was at a bunch of these Bitcoin events in person. Actually, I don't know if people know this, but Adam Back came to me and we sat down for like hours and had a very friendly chat actually. And it's very different from kind of like the Twitter back and forth and stuff, right? Like he came to a bunch of sessions I was hosting on like ordinals and layer 2 scalability. And so one thing I noticed really, I was also like just observing and listening. Like I just wanted to be there and see what the Bitcoin community that, you know, sometimes is hostile, what do they talk about? What do they care about? One of the things that came up a lot was they are talking about ossifying Bitcoin. Hey, we want Bitcoin to just never change, and what is needed to ossify the Bitcoin protocol. And I think there is a pretty valid argument that like a snark or a Stark verify opcode is the thing that can get you to ossification, right? So you can actually argue with, through that lens that if you want the Bitcoin L1 to not change, then you need to have this type of opcodes and that support these quote unquote true L2s, and then you don't have to worry about it because everything else can happen in L2. So I think I've seen that Lightning developers are also very interested in this. So there might be more organic pressure on the Bitcoin L1 sort of like devs and the BIP process. But again, I would give it like even the estimates that are coming out, as I said, like people are giving it like 6 years, right? So SBTC work is like critical for all practical purposes.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath. Maybe on testnet, it will come up sooner. That'll be like the hint.
Yeah.
All right, we are at top of the hour. Anything last minute or you go ahead and adjourn? All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.